I'm about to say a statement that I never thought I would ever say in my life. Chick-Fil-A plans to launch a streaming service. Deadline is exclusively reporting this. They're going to launch its own streaming platform for some reason. It's quote unquote aggressively moving into the entertainment space. And the fast food company, the infamous, if you will, polarizing, if you will, fast food company has been working with a number of major production companies, and is seeking to create family-friendly content, particularly in the unscripted space, budgeting about roughly $400,000 per half hour, but also dipping its toes into scripted and animated content, right? On top of developing its own content, it's in talks to license and acquire content as well. It's planning on launching sometime later this year. So this is not a far off kind of, oh, maybe we're kind of thinking of this. Like, this is moving ahead very quickly and in the immediate future. Deadline notes that Chick-fil-A, the company joins a group of a small but notable group of non-entertainment companies moving into this space. So Lyft, the ride-sharing app platform, has produced shows like Lucky Lift with Bob the Drag Queen, right? And then Airbnb, for some reason, produced the documentary Gay Chorus Deep South for MTV. So this is not unheard of, but this is like a whole other level. And even Chick-fil-A itself has slowly been moving into content creation. So for people who have been paying attention, this is not super crazy, because they've already produced the animated web series that was on their website called Stories of Evergreen Hills, which this is a picture from. The description of the show from the website is a series of animated short films, collectibles, and experiences created by Chick-fil-A. Stories of Evergreen Hills follows a young girl named Sam as she discovers how little acts of kindness can bring people together. End quote. In a past life, I used to do DoorDash driving in the suburbs of Rhode Island. And Chick-fil-A was always a popular spot. And recently, the most recent time I was door dashing, I remember seeing these characters and be like, who the hell are these people? Who are these children in this Chick-fil-A? So you have that kind of already as a animated web series, and they've also developed children's puzzles and like board games and stuff. So this is not completely out of left field, but it's still coming out of left field. It's still strange that a fast food company is developing its own streaming platform. Not even just developing content. Again, it's not completely unheard of. The Daily Beast notes that McDonald's, back in the day, produced the show McDonaldland. They've had a lot of entertainment content, over the years. And that made more sense because there was a cast of characters that surrounded the brand. So you had Ronald McDonald, you had the Hamburglar, you had Grimace, you had the weird duck girl. I was never into the, it feels like it was a very 70s, 80s, maybe 90s thing. That's kind of before my time. But does Chick-fil-A plan to build a similar roster of cartoon characters? I'm not sure. We really don't have a lot of details. Another thing that's really up in the air that I think a lot of people, at least I asked the minute I saw this article, is the content of this platform going to reflect the company's political stance, right? This Stories of Evergreen Hill doesn't seem to be overtly Christian or culture war-y, but and I say this as a Christian, this idea of like the small acts of kindness, it's fitting in with like that kind of publicly palatable kind of sense of Christian values, right? But is their content going to be a little more explicit, right? So, of course, the company's infamous for donating to anti-LGBTQ organizations. Some of those organizations even went as far as supporting things like conversion therapy, which, if you don't know, is a medically debunked pseudoscience, this idea that you could somehow make gay people straight using different chemical processes and psychological processes and conditionings. So they weren't just supporting kind of like vaguely conservative organizations. Like, they were supporting companies and nonprofits that were actively supporting conversion therapy, which is, kind of a big no-no. And that's why a lot of people won't even entertain the idea of even just getting food from Chick-fil-A, right? Which I can understand. And could this platform become a little niche for family-friendly conservative content? So not like something like the Daily Wire, which makes very on-the-nose culture war content. Could this become kind of a niche for the dog whistle for traditional family values, right? Again, even if it's just like inoffensive Christian dramas, is that kind of where they're leaning? I'm not sure, right? So again, like we said, it seems like they want to do a lot of unscripted stuff. It seems like the big program that is really kind of far along is like a game show, but we really don't know like what's the nature of the game show. So it's gonna be interesting to see like what kind of content does the Chick-Fil-A streaming platform. It such sounds weird coming out of my mouth. What kind of content the Chick-Fil-A streaming platform is gonna produce? But this is interesting because haven't we learned that streaming platforms are not financially lucrative unless you have a huge library? Again, a company like this producing content, sure, that kind of makes some sense. But do they really need their own platform? It seems like it just doesn't really make sense unless you subscribe to what The Verge notes in their article about this. This might be motivated by data, right? So something that's been really valuable in the digital age with YouTube and just like online searching and stuff in general is, of course, we're all being tracked in all of our cookies and all of our data and all this stuff, whatever all the terms are. So advertisers are able to advertise to people with a precision never before seen in the history of advertising, right? And that's valuable across the internet. But then if you're a company like, let's say, Disney, which is very diversified, because you don't just make the television content, but you also have merchandise, you also have the theme parks. Disney, it's 100% or 99% confirmed, right? They'd be stupid not to do this. They are looking at the Disney Plus streaming data, and that is informing some of their decisions on what stuff to make, what attractions to build at the theme parks, what kind of merchandise do we really want to push. Right? So that could be valuable data. So again, viewing habits can reveal directly or indirectly consumer interests. And again, these insights can inform business decisions. So if this is the goal, Chick-fil-A is maybe trying to use this. See, that's the thing though, is unlike with Disney, it's all entertainment. How do they use this viewing data? How do they leverage that into selling chicken sandwiches? I just don't understand. If this is the goal, I think ultimately it should just be free and with ads, because I feel like it's going to be hard pressed unless it's like a really low price, like a couple bucks a month. I don't see anyone spending $10 a month on the Chick-fil-A streaming service. So ultimately this is just very surreal again that I'm even saying this, but the bright side is that if nothing else, it'll be good to have another production source, right? That's the issue with Hollywood, is that there's only so many pockets, right? There's a lot of money, but there's only so many people who are able to give out or use the money. So, it's always an issue when a production company closes or gets absorbed, or even worse, a big distributor, like we saw like with Disney acquiring 20th Century Fox. That's one less player. That's one less potential distributor to produce and distribute content. A certain, if you're a filmmaker, right? You want more potential buyers. So if nothing else, this allows for more content to be made. It allows for more people to be employed. So if nothing else, that is definitely a nice byproduct. Certainly not the main objective here for Chick-fil-A.